Hey man, you sick of them limp, quiet, soft recordings? You want to know how to make your song slap, don't you? I got a couple tips for you. Let's check them out. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Wavy Wayne from Wavy.wav.com. And if you don't know, this channel is all about helping you leap over the obstacles to get better recordings, better mixes, better productions, and just be an all-around better engineer, all right? The topic that we're going to focus on today is going to be how we get our mixes louder. There's so much competition out here with making sure our mixes are at the right level, and sometimes we just don't know how to push those mixes beyond the right point without getting distortion in the mix. But before we jump off into this session, I do want to let y'all know that this track was recorded using one of my custom session templates that you can download right now at wavywayne.com. The templates will help you get the sound that you want a whole lot faster. I've got my presets and effects already arranged in the session, so all you got to do is start recording, be creative, and record your next hit. Go to wavywayne.com right now to buy yours and download it immediately so that you can get started with making your next record. Now back to the topic at hand. We all want our mixes to be louder. We want them to be booming. We don't want our mixes to be too quiet, especially when they go over streaming services and we playing them in the radio against, Drake and Lil Baby and all them cats that got the loud slamming mixes. One word of advice: professional mastering will always be your best friend when it comes to this. Getting the right levels in your mix is cool. That's your job. But really, if you really want the best possible outcome, you need to get a professional mastering engineer to work on your mix after you have done it, okay? Now, that's my disclaimer, but I know all y'all ain't gonna do that, and a lot of us like to do stuff ourselves. So here's what I like to do to make sure that my songs are at the proper level and that they're loud enough when I send them to a client or when I'm just, wanting to test something out and listen to it. And honestly, I've put tracks out like this. This is how I would do it if I was kind of self-mastering these records, okay? One of the main things that you want to do is make sure that your overall mix levels are loud enough so you don't have to do too much processing on the master bus. Now, to help me with this, as I'm mixing, I always check my VU meter. I have it calibrated to -15 dB, so that means whenever this meter is hitting at about 0 VU, that's really giving me about 15 dB of headroom. And that's going to be a good level for your average mix to be at so that you can then start adding the processing that you need to get it up to a louder level later. If you start off too quiet of a mix and you're, -10 VU or 7 VU, you're going to run into a lot of problems and probably introduce a lot of unwanted artifacts while you are adding extra limiting and extra processing to try to get up to the level that you want later. So let's go ahead and start by just listening to what we have and looking at how the VU reacts to this song that we're going to make a little bit louder. So right now, there's no processing happening on the overall mix, just our VU meter. Let's listen to it.
Going in circles got me so dizzy. We go up, be so up, then come crashing down. Fall in love, so in love, then we fall back out. What go round, it comes round. We go round for round. Yeah, we go round and round.
Cool. So hopefully you got to see how the VU meter is reacting to the song. Occasionally the peaks will go a little bit past 0. That's perfectly fine, okay? This is a great starting place. One of the first things I will do, though, is start to actually control a little bit of those dynamics and those peaks, and I'll use a compressor very lightly. The trick here is to use a few different processors in concession, but without having one processor do so much heavy lifting. So the first one I'll start with is a classic. Everybody loves this. Let's just go to the SSL G-Bus compressor. And what I'll aim to do here, let's just reset this here. I like to start off with a slow attack and a fast release and adjust them as necessary. But what I'll aim to do here is knock off a couple of dB from my peaks. That way I can add a little more gain here and have a louder overall signal. So for example, if my kicks are kind of 4 dB louder than the main part of the song where they're isn't a kick, by attenuating those kicks a little bit, kind of squashing them just a little bit, I can then raise the song up by another couple of dB overall in level. So let's go ahead and do that here with the SSL G-Bus compressor. And for this, whenever you're working on loudness, always use the loudest part of the song. So I'm just going to loop this little section of the chorus here and make it happen there.
If we go up, be so up, then come crashing down. Fall in love, so in love, then we fall back out. What go round, it comes round, we go round for round. Yeah, we go round and round. If we go up, be so up, then come crashing down. Fall in love, so in love, then we fall back out. What go round, it comes round, we go round for round. Yeah, we go round and round. If we go up, be so up, then come crashing down. Fall in love.
All right, cool. So my peaks are getting about 3 to 4 dB occasionally of compression, and that's good. And I'm adding a little bit of makeup gain here to get me a little bit louder. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is actually go over to a limiter. And this is going to give me even more loudness. One of my favorite limiters is the L2. Say what you want to about the L2. I like the L2. It does exactly what it needs to do. I am going to turn off this noise shaping. Let's just go to none over there. And I'm going to set my output ceiling to about 0.3, somewhere around there, just to get it away from the ceiling, 0 dB. We want to be away from there. So I'm just a little bit away from the overall ceiling, which would be clipping. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and adjust my threshold down and my aim here, and I'm going to be listening very closely for the introduction of any unwanted distortion or artifacts, but I want to try to get maybe 3 to 4 dB of attenuation here, but we'll see.
If we go up, be so up, then come crashing down. Fall in love, so in love, then we fall back out. What go round, it comes round, we go round for round. Yeah, we go round and round. If we go up, be so up, then come crashing down. Fall in love, so in love, then we fall back out. What go round, it comes round, we go round for round. Yeah, we go round and round. If we go up, be so up, then come crashing down. Fall in love, so in love, then we fall back out. What go round, it comes round, we go round for round. Yeah.
All right, so it seems that about 3 dB of attenuation is going to be the most I can get without getting some unwanted distortion. A little trick whenever you're working with a limiter, I like to just go ahead and kind of push it a little bit past the comfort zone to where I hear that distortion, and then back it up off of there a little bit so that I can get the most and squeeze the most limiting out of here without really getting those artifacts that we don't want. So yeah, this actually works. Let's hear the signal before and after the limiter.
If we go up, be so up, then come crashing down. Fall in love, so in love, then we fall back out. What go round, it comes round, we go round for round. Yeah, we go round and round. If we go up, be so up, then come crashing down.
Cool. I think I'm gonna ease it a little bit more, maybe even go, you know, like a half dB less on the threshold. Let's hear that again.
If we go up, be so up, then come crashing down. Fall in love, so in love, then we fall back out. What go round, it comes round, we go round for round. Yeah, we go round and round. If we go up, be so up, then come crashing down. Fall in
Cool. So we still have the dynamics, and this mix is getting a whole lot louder. So the next little tip is going to be to actually add another limiter into this chain. I'm going to just use the stock limiter in Pro Tools for this one, the Maxim, because it actually works. You know what? I don't got time to search for it. Let's just go ahead and type it in. We're going to use that stereo Maxim. And for this one, my output ceiling, I am going to set to 1 dB. This is because a lot of times once files get converted from like a WAV to an MP3, you get some overs, right? And so this is going to prevent any possible clipping. So I got my ceiling set to 1 dB. That's going to give me another 1 dB of headroom to make sure that we never actually clip, okay? So here we go. I'm going to now adjust my threshold until I'm just hearing a loudness that I want. Again, we can try to push it a little bit past the comfort zone till we are introducing distortion into the signal, and then back it off from there. And then we know that we kind of squeezing the most that we really can out of this limiter.
If we go up, be so up,
So that really helped to get me a lot more loudness out of this mix. Let's go ahead and listen to everything kind of bypass. Let's bring them all up and we'll bring them in order so we can see where we started at and where we are ending at. All right. So yeah, let's do bypass that one, and that one, and let's hear it.
If we go up, be so up, then come crashing down. Fall in love, so in love, then we fall back out. What go round, it comes round, we go round for round. Yeah, we go round and round. If we go up, be so up, then come crashing down. Fall in love, so in love, then we fall back out. What go round, it comes round, we go round for round. Yeah, we go round and round.
Nice. So there's definitely a huge jump from the SSL over to the L2, and then we're just getting a little more juice out of it by adding the Maxim in. I hope this has been helpful in helping you to get louder mixes, man, because we know that's definitely important, especially when you're sending those mixes off to a client, you're planning for a friend. You want to make sure that your mixes are loud, but not too loud to where they're introducing distortion and unwanted artifacts in your mix. This is a great way to do it by working it up in stages and primarily starting off with a good loud mix to begin with. I'm Wavy Wayne from WavyWayne.com. Check out the website if you want to use this recording and mixing template that I use for this session, and a whole lot more. All right. Thanks for watching this video. Be dope.